G'day everyone, long time no chat. So here I am, currently lost in the bush again, heading down to my latest prospect, which is a reef that I've named the Split Reef. We've got roughly about a 2-kilometre walk from the nearest track to access this reef. Tracing coarse gold up from a dry creek bed, I managed to get onto this reef. At the time, I was under the impression it was going to be virgin, that no one had ever found it. And after quite a bit of hunting, isolating it to the possibility of 2 different gully systems, I managed to locate it on the small spur between those 2. And once I got up there, the old timers had beat me to it. Story of my life. However, I did take some samples and I got some really nice gold out of it. Now, what's really special about this reef is it's shedding gold much more recently than any other that I've found in this district. Now, we're not too far away from my general area. We're only, I don't know, about an hour's drive or something like that. We're way out in the bush. There's no leases or anything out here, so we're all good in that respect. And this reef, it really got me excited because we found coarse gold in the creek. And on our 3rd visit to the reef itself, my friend actually managed to ping a little specimen nugget with an SDC, with his metal detector. That is something that we have never, ever had happen to us. We've found some brilliant gold with our metal detectors. We have never found eluvial gold close to its source like that. Most of the reef structures around here, I've come to the conclusion they shed a long time ago. This is very old ground, so all that nice gold that was originally close to the surface has long been eroded down into all of the gullies and creeks. So it's very uncommon to find gold still shedding out of the hill like we did. I've kept this one pretty quiet because it is quite an exciting find, probably the most promising that I have found so far. The reef itself actually lines up with another reef from a previous video called the Tricky to Find Reef. And that was the video where I shot the 2 wild dogs and then fell over and dislocated my shoulder. It actually does line up with this reef line here, or this structure here. And there's, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 kilometers between the 2 of them. So yeah, that's quite interesting, and it does display similar characteristics, geological characteristics here, as what it does way down on the other side there at the Tricky to Find. So we've certainly got a promising prospect here. I've been in maybe half a dozen times now. I've visited this reef and done some sampling and carried out a little bit of rock. I did a 20-kilogram crush and I got some nice gold out of it. It averaged around about, I think it came to about 17 grams to the ton. It worked out at for a 20-kilo sample. But the weird thing was that was less than I was expecting. And the reason that it was less than I was expecting is actually related to the reef structure itself and the way that it's shaped. And only through thorough sampling did I figure that out on my last trip in here. We're coming up to it here now. But here's the main area of interest currently. We have some very sketchy old underground workings to our south there, and to our north we've got some nice stable ground, and that's where I've gotten some great samples from. Now, the reason that we call this the Split Reef is because it's not just one structure, well, certainly not on the surface anyway. If we trace this down the hill, and this spur goes for probably another 2 kilometers before the base of the gully, it actually jumps all over the place. It'll go from side to side, and then in some spots you'll actually notice that they're parallel together. There's diggings parallel. So this reef, obviously something a bit more solid down below, has come up, and as it's gotten close to the fractured surface, it's shot off into different places, hence the name the Split Reef. The other area of interest we have is just over here, where my friend found the specimen nugget with his metal detector. Like I said, that's never happened before, so it's extremely exciting. Exciting enough for him to come back and dig this massive hole in here. This is obviously in one of the old timers' workings here. And they got quite deep in this, deeper than we were expecting. But we are starting to see a little bit of hard rock and stuff in here now. I did soil crush samples and I did get gold out of them. As my mate was digging it out, he was picking out the better looking stone, which so far we haven't really gotten onto what we're hoping, but I have crushed some of the better looking stone he picked out for me, and I did get gold out of that too, but nothing like what I was expecting. So clearly we still haven't hit it here yet. But as I mentioned, I'm getting beautiful gold in that shaft over there, and the two main quartz structures run up through there like that, and suddenly this structure's all the way over here, 7 meters roughly to the west. So it might just be another small offshoot, or it could be that not too far underground there, the ground faulted and everything shifted this way. So that might be why we've got this rich structure here. So we'll keep digging on that, and eventually we'll get somewhere on it and have a go at this. Numbnuts lefty sunnies here. I'll try them on. Oh yeah. Yeah, so this is what we're looking at so far. The last time that I was in here, we had a prick of a windy day. It was horrible weather. So I brought my tarp set up and cleaned myself up a nice little area over behind their waste rock pile here. Put the tarp over as cover, and the trip before that, I brought in some buckets, empty buckets, and I'd been waiting about a month for it to rain so that I'd have a little bit of water in here I could do some sampling with. Old bits of metal that were left here by the old timers. I made a small fireplace in here and used those bits of metal to dry out my samples so that I could crush them through the cobbers and get my results. So I've got a couple of clips from that I'll add in here now, and you'll see exactly how rich it's looking so far. It's quite exciting. So my first sample, that last one, was from the eastern side of the reef. There's lots of gunky rock in the middle, but on both sides of the reef there is gold. Now this sample here, which is my third sample today, is from the west side. Have a look at this. Ooly dooly. Oh, that is coconuts. My goodness. In the west side. Little hard rock nugget. So that's exciting. Wow. Another fantastic pan from the west side. That's 20 grams a tonne. I reckon I've already gone through about 1 litre of water It's still winter here at the moment. Yeah, that walk, even though it's only a couple of kilometers, like I said, most of it's so thick and twisted, and you literally get lost every single time I try and walk in or out of here, especially at night time. You know, it's like a 45-minute walk each time over 2 kilometers. So I'm gonna have something to eat, have some lunch, and then we'll get into it. And on the menu today, we've got a salami and cheese sandwich, some cake that Caroline made me, and a banana. Should be a good day. I tied that knot on the wrong way. If we use our noggin and tie it on from this direction, and put the knot anywhere around further than what we need, then it comes back on itself and there's no chance of it sliding around on the tree. It's not safe to do a direct climb from this angle because we have loose rock there. So what we'll do is run around this tree just here. This tree is more than strong enough to take my weight. And then we'll throw our rope down. We'll climb from this angle where it's much more safe and more direct. I've dislodged loose rock from this edge here. I've scaled it back to make sure that it's safe for me to get in and out without anything falling. And all that remains now is some smaller stuff laying around, but that's no big deal. I don't like sacrificing my nice clean sampling water, but when the boy's thirsty, the boy's thirsty. Hey, what do you do? Now, we're not a long way down, which is very handy, but what I've found so far is basically a small reef 2 to 4 inches on the right, a section about a foot wide of diluted material, and then a small reef again 2 to 4 inches on the left, or on the west, sorry. Further over here to the west again, there's actually another small intrusion there that's carrying gold. Now that one's not very interesting. But basically, all throughout every little crack within this face here, there's little pockets of gold, and most of it's pretty crappy. But in these 2 main sections of reef either side of the diluted material in the middle, it's really rich stuff. I received samples up to about 15 ounces to the ton, which is very exciting. There's not a huge amount of material there to work, but you know, it's promising anyway. So the west side seemed to be better. The east side was still great. And the section in the middle, more or less the whole way down to the bottom here, averaged around about 2 grams to the ton. So if we were actually mining this on a decent scale, which I really hope we do if it turns out well, we wouldn't be leaving that diluted material in the middle. We'd be taking that as well, because it does still hold value, and it's got to come out anyway. So you'd process it if you could easily cart it out of here, and you weren't just doing it in your backpack or chook food bags. Spinning around and looking to our south, we see a nasty old collapse. Now I haven't been down in there obviously, but we can see timbers down in there, so they were a little bit lower than what we can currently see here. If I had to guess, this was quite a nice neat little shaft here, and it went down to the level that they were working on, or their bottom level that they were working, and this is all nice and flat right the way from the north side here right the way down to the south into these next couple of diggings. But we've had some massive rock falls. It's covered this over here, and it makes it look like it goes down deep there and deep here, but that wouldn't have been the way that it was originally. Even down in the bottom here, we can actually see the top of timbers that were sitting up, so no doubt they were a bit lower than what I can currently reach. All right, so let's go down in here for a geese. Here we can already see our more interesting intrusion running along through this on the west side, and the same, not quite as obvious over here on the east side, but it is still there. The section in the middle seems to point at broken and loose rock historically. So what I'm picturing here, and please, if anyone knows better than me, correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm picturing here is a large fault in the earth and a lot of rocks falling down into it over time. Then at some point we had a thermal event where quartz fluid has been injected up. It's turned all of the center loose rock into one sort of solid mass that has little fractures of gold-bearing material in it. And then it's pushed the main quartz fluid up either side. And that's what's sort of separating that broken material in the middle. Because we seem to have a bit of everything, but it has been solidified at some point a millennia ago, more than likely. Getting down into here a little bit further, we see that the left side pinches a little bit, 1.5 inches, and then it opens up to around about 4 to 6 inches down in there. Some nice material here on the right as well. That will all carry beautiful gold. Nice close up there. So my best samples were from roughly here. I got beautiful gold in here and I got magnificent gold in here. But basically, as soon as we enter into this section of drive, it was great either side of that center mass, right the way down into the bottom in there. If we look here, this is one of the timbers I was talking about. So no doubt they were 6 foot below where I currently am, because this would have been supporting timbers on top, and waste rock that would have been above their head. Now, it would seem to me, looking at how far they've chiseled in on the eastern side there, they were predominantly interested in this section of the reef. That's not quite what I've found. The west side has so far been better, but there hasn't been a huge difference between the two. Both sides grade really well. So this area isn't under any lease, so without putting a lease on it myself, which I definitely don't have the money for, I can't use any mechanized tools. So unfortunately I'm going to be using hammer and chisel to try and get as much of this ore out as I can today. And then we'll be dictated mostly by time, because I need to get back, crush and process this, and then pack the car and all the equipment up, and we're heading away for a few days again. So we're a little bit limited by time, but we'll try and get as much as we can out. I really only want to walk out of here once today. I don't want to have to come all the way back in because it's a long way. So we can only carry out what we can carry in one trip. So let's see how we go. All right, well, I got a little bit out there. Well, that's not a bad little start for 15 minutes with the chisel. Got some magnificent looking stuff in here. That stuff doesn't look any good, but it runs right alongside the intrusion itself, the quartz intrusion on the east side. And it's essentially sandstone, isn't it? So I'd nearly guess that as the ground was moving, it's been scratching against the side of that reef, and most of the material that's fallen down in that gap as it's been grinding on it has been the sandstony shit. But I'd guarantee that there'll be gold in there as well. It's been liberated from the quartz itself. That is a nice piece. Bet if we got the loop out, we'd see some beautiful gold in that. Righto. Let's pull this one out of here. Only half buckets at a time. These plastic buckets have the tendency to break in the handles, and that would be an absolute tragedy. Chook food bag. Much easier to carry out of the bush than a bucket. It's a good start. 10 kilos, maybe 12 and a half. Something that I actually forgot to mention before was when I said I did a 20 kilogram sample that came back around about 17 grams to the ton. That wasn't actually from down in the shaft where I'm focusing. That was from the surface rock laying around here next to where my mate found that beautiful species. And what we found is he got his little piece right there, and he showed me, and just looking at this beautiful piece, and I looked down and looked at some of this other rock here that's laying on the surface that had little bits of quartz and stuff intruded into it, and it's really trying to figure out what's going on, because most of this is a really dark purple color. Probably doesn't come up much on camera, but this is a fine example of what most of the ore here looked like that I've broken up with my geopick. And anyway, the first piece of rock that I picked up, which was just behind me, I could see a piece of gold in it. That was quite exciting. So anyway, I broke through quite a few of them here, and that's actually where we got the 20 kilo sample from. It's all this darker purple coloured rock that's on the surface. Once I did that crush and I realised, right, okay, that's where the gold is, beautiful, I started looking underground for this purple rock, and I didn't find it. And what I ended up figuring out, only from being here last trip and cooking some of the rock on top of the fire, is that this white to light bluey aqua coloured rock that we're getting out here, when it's burnt or exposed to heat, it turns purple. And as you'd probably notice, pretty much every tree around this area has been burnt. More or less every bushfire up through this district tears through this area, so that explains it. So all this surface rock, it's it's been burnt, and that's why it's turned purple. That's also why I couldn't see any of it underground. And yeah, I found that quite fascinating. What then I realised is all this rock that's up around the outside here that has little quartz injections into it and is vastly purple, but when broken open shows the same characteristics as down in the hole. I figured out all the stuff they've left laying out here is that centre mass either side of the two rich sections of reef. So the 20 kilo sample we crushed was basically from rock that they'd thrown out. They didn't think it was any good. I am almost certain that it's from that centre mass. So that's a really exciting result. So what we should see here when we crush the better stuff is a much better result. And I certainly hope so anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you pick up any one of these rocks and you sit here with your jeweler's loupe, you will see pieces of gold in them. So it's, quite a lot of material on the surface, basically, you know, waiting to be processed. If there was a time in future where you could get a vehicle into here, which probably will never happen, but you never know, you never know. You could cart out all this rock and you'd get really nice gold from it, even though it was their waste. So yeah, keep an eye out for that and be aware of discoloration due to the rock being heated up in bushfires, because it can happen. And I was unaware of that until, yeah, last trip, like I said, when I was drying the rock on top of the fire, the little wood fire that I made. And yeah, it turned purple, and yeah, a bit of a light bulb moment for me there. Anyway, so that's the story there. Let's go back down and keep chiseling. Trying to slowly chisel away at this west side this time. It's quite a bit wider, that section down lower there, and it should grade really well. I actually got a nice chunky piece out of there in one of my samples the other week when I managed to get in here. Looking good. Yeah, I got a little bit carried away that time. I got into a nice wide section of reef and it was breaking out really easy, so should be magnificent stuff, I'm hoping. Awesome. 15 kilos there. I might actually be nearing my limit here. Have to see. Yeah, that was about half hour's worth of chiseling that time, so it is reasonably productive. I mean, I'd much prefer to use the little hammer drill just because it's easier on your body. Less likely to bash your hands up, and when you're using a hammer and chisel, you end up knocking these knuckles, your hammer hand on the wall. You hit your chisel hand with the hammer, it gets knocked onto the roof or against the other wall. You just end up hurting yourself quite a bit. In reality, you can get more out with a hammer and chisel than you can with the little Milwaukee hammer drill. But the Milwaukee hammer drill is just safer, so pretty silly rule if you ask me. Anyway, yeah, that'll do that bag. There's a good 15 kilo there, I reckon. Another 10 kilo max, and that'll be it. Forgot to throw the tail of the rope down the hole. I'm currently looking upside down, but using my phone camera might give you guys a little bit of a better idea of what this all looks like. Over on the east side, we do see a slight clay layer there pressed right against I suppose the hanging wall. Just trying to look at it, pretty vertical either side really. that band of clay will more than likely carry really nice gold as well. So that's always good to grab. Right, so, oh, hang on, take my mask off. I was just looking for the next little spot to chip out, and having a closer look, I can see that the reef on the eastern side here runs up, bit of a split through this section, and there's some nice chunks of quartz and stuff through here. I mean, I kept looking, and kept looking, and then have a look at that. It's a nice big solid chunk of gold right there. How good's that? So, yeah, I'm going to chisel this bit out now. Right, well, that was another good run. I got a little bit carried away again, of course. Took quite a bit from up through here, just a sort of a little bit from everywhere, all along that western side. And then carefully chiseled a little bit of this out on the eastern side where we just saw that nice gold in it. I couldn't go too crazy there because a lot of this stuff wants to come out. And you know, if I'm going to be working down there, I don't want to loosen this up too much because they're only small chunks, but they do want to go. So I'll have to drag them out another time. I just took my hammer and chisel up because I've got a bit bigger bucket than what I should have grabbed. And I dropped the rope back down to make it easier because there's no way I was getting it out of here without it. A little bit too heavy for one hand. Goodness me. Right. Job's right. I think I've definitely got more than enough rock. Got it. Oh. A bit too much here. I got a long, steep, thick walk to get out of here, as you'd know from the small clips of the walk in. Might have to do a couple of trips. I'll set my buckets back up here now as well. Need a rock for in this one. Look at some of this that's sitting up the top here. That looks identical to what I was working down underground there. That should have heaps of gold in it. So, I mean, it might turn out this section of the reef is quite patchy. That's why there's such good looking stuff up the top here, but I'm yeah, still feeling pretty confident that it's the center section that they didn't want to take. The nearest crushing facility or battery that would have been close to these guys around the time that they were working. It's probably about 5 k's, I reckon, line of sight, or as the drone flies. But yeah, you're talking about heading all the way down this spur, getting up that other side somewhere there, going a couple of spurs over and then down. So it's a lot further when you're carting your ore simply using horses. So yeah, they were definitely only trying to take out the best stuff. And I've got the same issue now. Access is very tricky. We can only get out little bits of ore at a time. And that rock was meant to be for in this bucket, so it doesn't blow away. Turns out this bucket here had a hole in it, so I've just jammed a stick through the hole there now. And at least it'll catch a little bit more water then and drop it into this other one. And then I've got sticks in the two that have water in them, because if sugar gliders or feathertail gliders or any type of little rodents and stuff come along for a drink, if they jump in, they won't be able to get out unless there's a stick in there. So if you do this whole leave the empty bucket in the bush and wait for rain trick, make sure you do that, because you don't want to kill any cute little animals. Oh, that's heavy enough on its own. All right, so this is what I worked out. I brought a couple of 2 meter lengths of telecom rope with me, just in case. And I've sort of come up with quite a primitive method of carrying these. So I'll set this green sapling over top of my shoulders and we'll see how that goes. I should be able to just let it sit on my shoulders and then hold the top of each of the bags in my hands as well. Let's find out. Hey, that ain't too bad. That's there's not much stress on my arms, which is good, but still, you know, I'm carrying a lot of weight overall. Like I've probably got, I don't know, 50 kilos or something on me at the moment, all up, including the pack. Because I suspect I might have about 40 kilos in these 2 bags all up. Just gonna have to take regular breaks. But yeah, this isn't working too bad. Just shorten these ropes a little bit. So I can take a little bit of weight off my shoulders, holding the bags with my hands. Oops. A little bit too high now. That's always the way, isn't it? I'm not even a quarter of the way, and I'm knackered. Just reached the halfway mark where the little northern spur, or north-south spur that I was walking on, joins onto a east-west. So a little bit of a flat spot here. And I've got a superb lyrebird, a male, over here making a lot of noise. Here's a interesting technique that I used to break up the hard work. The stick idea worked for a while, but it was too much weight to carry all at once. So I just do 1 bag at a time, carry it up for a bit, put it down, and then walk down and grab the other bag. Now that's pretty much the same as just carrying 1 bag all the way out, then walking back in and carrying the other one all the way out, except that's broken up into smaller little bits. The hard labour's over, and I got 30 seconds of enjoying a nice weightless walk back down the hill before I've got to do more hard labour. So it works all right. Not as well as a helicopter or quad bike would, but better than nothing. Quite a steep section here. So these buggers are heavy enough on their own. Rest. Work. Rest. Well, it took quite a while, but I made it. I got a good amount of ore there. I'm really happy, but I'm quite exhausted. About a 20-minute drive out of this super overgrown old track before we get back onto the main road, and about 40 minutes back to home, so not too bad. Should have enough time to have a crush tonight and see what's in there. Righto, so I put the 2 bags on the scales, and the larger one is 26 kilos and the smaller one is 24.5. Now with the 10 kilos here that I got out the other day, that gives us exactly 60 kilos less the bucket weight. So that'll be a really good sample to start off with. Let's see if we can get this generator going and get some lights happening, get the jaw crusher happening. I do actually have an inverter system here that I can flick on to give me lights without the generator. But the batteries are quite low because I left that inverter on the other week and drained the shit out of them, which was pretty silly. Anyway, let's see whether we can boot this up. Apparently not. Right, so here's our issue. Looks fine, doesn't it? But if I tip it upside down, the ceramic insulator is broken. So yeah, nah, no good. How I figured out that that was a spark issue so quickly was I assumed it would be stale fuel, having the generator sit here for so long. I very rarely use the plant these days, as most of my time spent doing other stuff, more on the research side and exploring, and less sample crushing, unfortunately. But anyway, I injected a bit of butane into the intake and it still didn't change anything, so I knew that it had to be a spark issue. I don't recommend anyone does that, by the way. I've never tried it. It was just I didn't have anything else to squirt in there to see whether it was a fuel issue, so that was what was in the car. Oh, that's much better. All right. go. 2 nice buckets. Beautiful. Yeah, so when I turn the generator off, that turns the pump off in the settling pond. And that means that I then have to switch the water feed over to the tank up the hill there, so that it runs this. And then the inverter on to power the lights. And this setup here is 12 volt anyway, so it just runs off the batteries. It's handy that way. It means I can come up here after, you know, doing some trommeling or sluicing, and if I've got heavy black sand concentrates, I can just fire this up without the Jenny going and process my cons. So I sort of donated the spiral wheel to the crushing plant, but I still use it for other things too. Man, oh man, did we see some beautiful gold in there. There's still bits stuck in there. There's still quite a lot of it up here. Might try and sniff it up with the sniffer bottle or something. Oh goodness, look at all the gold in the corner there. Wow. Whoops. Didn't brush that bit out properly. I'd say that'll probably do for the spiral wheel. Just get some water and sniff up this gold here. Won't go too crazy here, we'll just have a looky-see. Have a rough pan and then we'll have an idea of how much we're spitting out, and I would be certain that we are spitting out some gold, because man oh man, some of this was just so fine. I had a look in the oversized tray, that little one that runs to the ball mill, hoping that there might be a couple of chunky bits, but I couldn't see any. Pretty much everything just seemed really fine, and sort of the occasional little flake, but yeah, not much. Considering I'm back running the 30 mesh screen on this output of the ball mill again, it's extremely fine gold. Thought we would have got something chunky. So being that fine, I wonder whether we've actually liberated all of it with a 30 mesh crush. It'd probably be worth me putting the 50 mesh back on and having a run with that just to see whether it liberates any more. Rerunning these tailings, that is. That's good enough. Not just all fine stuff, there is two larger little pieces there. The rest of it's all microscopic, but there is two bits that it spat out. So that's not much chop. I didn't have this set up all that amazing either. Could have, well, it's the first time really running this rock, so it's dialed in currently for next time I want to run it. The issue with this rock specifically is the dirty country rock that surrounds it, and quite a lot of clay and stuff, so it ends up, you would have seen, really dirty material coming down this side here. And when it's dirty like that, it's actually slower than running harder, cleaner quartz when it's soft and dirty. So, but anyway, that's it. Let's see, first of all, what's in our oversized tray. No, not really. There's no gold in that whatsoever, just chunks of iron. That's what all that is. That's really surprising. I mean, like I said, we actually detected a nugget at this reef, so I thought we were going to see something a little bit more chunky. Next one. See whether there's anything still caught up in this. think there'd be a couple of specks in here. Quite a few flakes of rusty iron. Got one little flaky bit there. So far, the rest appears to be iron. I know, one more tiny little flake there. So that's pretty good. The spiral wheel's doing its job. Now for the good stuff, hopefully. I'm hoping that the gold in the tailings is also a good indicator that we got some really nice gold in the spiral wheel, or in the number 1 cons. Righto, let's see. Come on, give us some nice gold here. Ooh. Yes, indeed, that is some beautiful gold. Wow. It's all fine, so, you know, there won't be as much weight there as what it looks. But that's still bloody magnificent. Beautiful gold. Very happy with that. Sniff this up. Head back down to the lab and have a better look, clean it up a bit better. Right, well, that's a wrap. I'm very happy with that. Very, very happy. It's looks like it's going to grade roughly how I was expecting, which is awesome. Can't ask for much better than that. Don't forget to turn the inverter off this time. So, let's ensure that this container is tiered properly. Yep. And we'll add a certain amount of nice, clean, majoritively dry mercury. I have exactly 5.021 grams of dry mercury. Don't tip that over. Here's the gold from the other day, or the other week when I was in there and got to do the first sampling. Some really nice stuff. I think I only did a dozen samples. Very nice. So I will add that gold to the weight here at the end, because then I'll melt it up and send it off and have it tested. It should come back at 88%. That's what I reckon. Right, gave it a pretty aggressive shake there for a while. So that should have all of the gold amalgamated. Just give it a quick tap. Doesn't look like there's anything, but we'll double check. No, so I gave the pan a tap, and that is 100% all of the gold. There was not even a microscopic speck left in it. So you can see the advantage of using that stuff. Anyway, I'll tip this out, I'll dry it off, and then we'll get it back on the scales and see what numbers we've got here. Wow, that's pretty impressive. 7.383. Right, well, we've got our number now, so let's just also collect this other gold. If we keep an eye on that, or if we tear that, we'll be able to get a weight on this after we collect the rest of this gold as well. That's most of it there now, all the fine stuff's gone. It's just the chunky piece that doesn't want to go in. Yeah, I've just got a hold of him there now. No gold can escape from nice clean mercury. And with that little bit of other gold from sampling the other day, we end up with 7.55. Very good result.
Now, something else I figured out recently as well is that I can reuse the same egg cup or crucible in my furnace, providing I don't let it cool down. So that's the reason that we've actually got 4 melts here. Only the bottom one with the S stamped on it is actually from the split reef. These other 3 were just samples that I'd processed at the same time to save money. Ordinarily, I would have had to use 4 different crucibles at $2 each, as well as the gas to fire up and cool down the furnace individually each time. Now that I just save them up and do them all in one batch, it works out heaps cheaper. It's a much better way to do it. And we're just about to see our final result from the split reef here now. Ooh, I can't wait. 3.06 grams of precious metals. So that puts us at around about 50 grams to the ton. Now that's not pure gold. You'll see here in a second the colour difference between the 2 on the top, which were actually alluvial gold that I'd melted up, and the 2 on the bottom, which were hard rock. As I previously mentioned, I was expecting the split reef to come in at about 88% pure, but we sent it off and had it tested under the XRF, and I was a little bit over on that number, as you'll see here in a second, but we still got a really good result. And me good buddy Mickey from Grappy's Gold Buyers tested and sent some photos for me under the XRF, 85.01% on one side of the melt and 85.11% gold on the other side, which gives us an amazing final result of over 42.5 grams of gold and 7 grams of silver per ton. I think it's probably time now that I have some discussions with some of my other mining buddies and see whether we can raise any capital to actually put a lease over this spot, because it does really look amazing. Once we cover the area with a lease, then we can look into getting a diamond drilling rig in and perhaps getting some access and other things. So if any of you guys are interested in getting involved in this project, please send me an email. Love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and happy prospecting.